You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
Welcome to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Night Nation's only call-in show goes live now.
All right. Hello, Night Nation. Hello, Orlando. This is Andrew Phegley, and this is Knightline at Night, live from the Dever Team Studios, brought to you by Chad Barlaw, assisting injured veterans get the help they deserve. You can give Chad a call at 407-599-9036 or visit protectingvets.com. You can also call Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach real estate needs, 386-690-1636. And if you need a new or used car, truck, or Jeep, you can give me a call, Andrew Phegley, at 386-736-3000, or visit me at DeLand Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram in DeLand, Florida. We're taking your calls on this show. If you want to call us as well, 844-580-9326, 844-580-9326, or you can use the open mic feature in the WDBO app. Once again, I'm Andrew Phegley at AP_Knightline on Twitter. I got Big Ben Stout here with me at Big Social 32 on Twitter. I got Roger Phipps at Night Bengal on Twitter, and you can find all the rest of our content on nightlinesports.com. I also have our good friend Brandon Helwig from UCF sports.com as well on the line. And we wanted to get right into it with Brandon. Brandon, are you there? We wanted to talk to you first off about the situation with losing our women's basketball coach this week to the University of Georgia.
Yeah, obviously it was, if anyone was kind of following what's been happening in the world of UCF athletics the last couple of weeks, the story has obviously been the women's basketball team. They, just to kind of recap, if people weren't familiar, they just, pretty much steamrolled through their schedule. The best season in school history, won the conference regular season, won the conference tournament, and really just doing things that, that no program in UCF women's basketball history has ever done. Easily the best season ever. We're seeded number 7 in the NCAA tournament, really for what they accomplished during the year and where their net ranking was. Probably were underseeded a few spots. They kind of had a lack of respect, honestly, throughout the course of the season. They were killing everyone pretty much and had difficulty getting even in the top 25 for a few weeks. So that's kind of the nature of, I guess, the media world for women's basketball. UCF had never really accomplished all that much in the past in terms of, national recognition. So we're a little bit slow to get recognized. But, yeah, made it to the NCAA tournament, won their first tournament game against Florida, who was a 10 seed. And then the way the women's tournament does it, the higher seed hosts. So they paired up with UConn, who was a 2 seed, had to play at UConn on their home floor. Pretty much gave UConn every game, could have easily won, and unfortunately the season ended. This was a team good enough to probably make a deeper run. Could have been a Sweet 16 team if they would have been in any other regional besides the UConn regional. But it is what it is. That the news just that was this past Monday night. They lost to UConn, and as the week went on, Georgia had a vacancy in their women's basketball position, and they hired Coach Cody Abrahamson Henderson, hired her. That was officially announced yesterday. So that's kind of where we're at. It's kind of been a crazy week.
Yeah, and this is something that we're used to at UCF with, being in the G5 or the American Conference, and obviously the SEC has a ton of money that we don't have at the time, especially for women's basketball. There's a big parity there with, the different conferences, just tons of money in the SEC. So, I mean, it's not like we can even try to really match that, even though Terry Mahajer, the AD of UCF, I guess tried at some point to get her into the top 15 of salaries in women's basketball, but it didn't quite make it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was hearing over the last couple of days, which was really tremendous because for most schools, women's basketball is not a revenue sport. I mean, it doesn't really bring in many fans. UCF didn't have the greatest fan support. And that's really, I mean, kind of the case throughout most of women's college basketball. Of course, there's UConn. They're kind of an outlier in all of this, in terms of drawing thousands and thousands of fans each and every night. But yeah, I mean, it was a really great offer. Terry Mahajer was offering to make her, I believe, it was going to be a top 15 national salary, and also was going to put in a raise to bump that up to top 10 national salary a year later when UCF joins the Big 12. But it was, I'm sure Georgia was hard to turn down. Coach Abe actually attended Georgia out of high school. She played at Georgia for 2 years as a student athlete. She's originally from Iowa, and she eventually transferred back home and played for University of Iowa. She finished her career there, but she began her collegiate career at Georgia back in the day. And I'm sure there were some ties there and, the resources you're going to have at Georgia. And I have no doubt in my mind that she's the kind of coach that if you're going to talk about, with the way women's basketball is, there's not a whole lot of parity. I mean, it's usually there's about top 5 or 10 programs that are clearly better than everybody else. And if you look at the SEC, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Tennessee's getting back to where they were. I mean, there's a lot of quality programs, but I have no doubt that Coach Abe is the kind of coach that can, maybe make Georgia basketball where South Carolina is now, just really become a national power these past few years. And I have no doubt that she has the kind of coaching chops and recruiting and personal. She has the entire package, in my opinion, to kind of do that. But it's a tough loss for UCF because, I mean, you want to be competitive in every sport that you have, going into the Big 12. And she was the coach that, I don't know if I can say the same for every coach on campus right now, but I can say without a doubt, I know that if Coach Abe was leading the women's basketball team, UCF would still be instantly competitive when they joined the Big 12 a year from now. And so now it's up to Terry Mahajer. He's got to try to find that, that next, person that will be able to do that.
Hey, Brandon, it's Roger. Talking about competitiveness and where we go from here, there's Diamond Battles had recently announced that she was coming back. And then obviously her daughter was also going to be playing for us, highly recruited and highly rated recruit. So where does this leave us going forward? I mean, obviously some of that will be dependent on the next coach that comes in. But what do you think Diamond does? Does she follow Coach Abe? And what does that do for the existing roster?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question mark right now. Diamond Battles was coming back, but that's when she probably thought that Coach Abe was coming back to UCF. Maybe she's coming back. And now, you know how it goes now. You can transfer and have you retain, you could be immediately eligible anywhere you go now. So that's kind of the situation. You sort of wonder. I mean, when Coach Abe took the UCF job, she had a player from Albany, which was the previous school she was at. She had, she joined her in Orlando. She transferred. So now the rules are even looser in terms of you can be eligible immediately. So I'll be interested to see, what happens there. Obviously her daughter, I mean, that's a no-brainer. She's going to join her. She actually was part of the team this year, did not play. She graduated from high school early and just was kind of shadowed the team here. And then this spring semester never dressed out, but obviously she's going to join her in Athens. Will Diamond Battles, will any other players join her? Maybe it depends on who the next coach is. There's just some questions that we don't know the answers to right now, but are kind of unsettling because, you kind of have some pieces coming back and you hate to not only lose your coach, you also hate to lose some of your best players, which could happen.
Yeah, this has been, it's good to hear from you, Brandon. It's kind of astounding to me how quickly and then how she built this program, Coach Abe did, just as far as, took a team that kind of was struggling and then all of a sudden, rattling off 20 plus wins immediately. But, you really saw it in that UConn game. It just seemed like they kind of took on her personality and her culture that she's established so well. And so, losing her and kind of switching gears to maybe another topic that we can dive into a little further after the break, but we got a few minutes now, is, maybe some of the reasons beyond, that she's familiar with Georgia and the program and it's going to the SEC. Is there any, maybe smoke around just the facilities in general and some of the things that she's already established the culture here at UCF of winning, but really trying to push forward and the investments? Did she just not see the plan from the administration potentially, or what are your kind of thoughts on that, if you have any information on that?
Yeah, on that first point you were making, I mean, just a fantastic job. I think she's done the best job of any, at least since I've been following the sports programs for about 20 years now. She did the best job just turning around a program that I've ever seen. Because, there's sports that I think if you're in the state of Florida, you have inherited advantages in. If you should be good in baseball, you should be good in softball, soccer, football talent, but, women's basketball in Florida, based on where there's a lot of programs, a lot of states that, have advantages that maybe Florida does. So the fact she was able to just step right in and make UCF an instant contender makes her really, I think she has an argument to be the best coach at UCF in any sport over the last 20 years, just where she had to overcome. But what you say, yeah, I think I did hear that. There was a little bit of frustration. It's kind of been a stagnation in terms of facilities improvements. I mean, I know there's a lot of issues. We're coming out COVID and everyone took pay cuts for a year, not knowing what was going to happen through that. And there's obviously, questions to be resolved about AAC buyout and when you're getting in the Big 12 and when you're going to get that check. I mean, obviously things are going to be, be looking pretty good here in the next couple of years, but there's not a great basketball facility situation. When you look at some of UCF's peer schools, you look at Houston, they opened up a beautiful facility a few years ago. The facilities aren't great. And Ben, you were a player. It's pretty much the old UCF arena. It's kind of, they have like a weight room down the hallway and, it's fully functional, but there's no wow factor. You've got a practice gym that's basically the second floor of the old arena. I mean, none of it's great. I know they have plans to improve, but there's really been no announcement. There's no renderings been released, and there's really no timeline for when UCF, and this would affect the men as well. There's no timeline for when UCF could potentially break ground on a new basketball facility.
All right. So, yeah, all those things I think make this whole situation difficult. And then now we have to find somebody that will be of her caliber. And I think that's going to be difficult. She was extreme high caliber of college basketball coach, men or women's, in my opinion. And I think that she's going to go on and probably be a legendary coach in women's college basketball. I don't see how she can't. With her personality and everything else, to be honest with you. So really quickly, where do we go from here? I mean, who's out there and where does Terry Mohajir even look, I guess?
I honestly, I don't know where to start. I'm not up and up as much as I would be as far as the men's side, as knowing who the up and coming coaches are. Who does he have connections to potentially? I really, honestly, I haven't dived in that deep yet to kind of see where he would go next. I really don't know.
That's understandable. I mean, we haven't either. So that's kind of a hard thing. It's not obviously as predominant as men's basketball is and everything else, which is kind of unfortunate because there's some teams that are absolutely incredible, most of the teams, and UCF really had one of those teams this year, I thought. So this just makes it difficult. It's one more thing that we have to go through at UCF with a coach, being led to the other side, I guess. So we're going to talk a lot more about this when we come back after the break. We'll be right back on Knightline at Night.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
And now, back to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Call now at 844-580-9326.
All right, back on Knightline at Night with you. This is Andrew Phegley live from the Dever Team Studios, brought to you by Chad Barlaw. We have Brandon Helwig on the phone with us. We're continuing the talk a little bit about Coach Abe that has left our women's basketball program for the Georgia program. I think, Ben, you wanted to talk about something that we were talking about during the break a little bit, and then you wanted everybody to hear that.
Yeah, I was just looking at just Coach Abe's record here, and her record at previous schools like Albany was a school that she left to come to us, and it just feels like we have a window here where Coach Abe did something so special at UCF that had never been done before in the women's basketball program, and Albany was kind of the same situation that she did there because she's such a special coach. But 2 years after Coach Abe left Albany, they were great, and then they've been middling ever since, and so. Could that happen to us is something that's rolling through my mind right now that she's gone. And I guess I kind of point to the assistant coaches that Coach Abe has. And I don't know if anything's been announced that you've heard about any of them staying here to establish culture. It kind of seems like they all kind of are attached to Abe, not necessarily attached to UCF. So that's something to look into, certainly, but it kind of just seems like whatever magic she captured here, we would want to hold on to. And is there a possibility of her staff, or any of her staff coming around, sticking around?
Brandon, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I believe, I think we were talking during the break. I think it was Roger brought this on that Coach Valerio, that's on staff, is someone that they've talked about, potentially being a future head coach, whether that's at UCF now or someplace else. There's definitely someone on staff that has the pedigree. I don't have the story in front of me, but I know The Athletic, someone who covers women's college basketball, the coaching carousel. I know her name had been mentioned recently as, I forgot how many were on the list, like a top 20 names to kind of, coaches who are ready to get that head coaching job. And she's definitely would be one of them. I don't know if Terry Mahajra, was there some bad blood maybe with the way Coach Abe left? You make an offer, she still goes interview. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wonder if that's in the cards or not, to hire in staff or not. Because like you said, you're right. You want to keep that culture. You want to do whatever you can to keep some of your best players in Orlando and keep them from following her. And you don't want to see a massive exodus of talent. So that'll be an interesting thing to follow. Will Mahajra consider an in-house candidate? And there are some, or, will he go outside the existing UCF circle?
Yeah. So, the other thing is how much is Terry Mahajra going to try to keep this program at that level? I just I don't know how much he's going to even try, because it's not a revenue generating sport nearly as much. Although, we enjoy it, and we enjoyed the ride that Coach Abe has coached the last couple of years here, but I don't know how much budgetary stuff there is for women's college basketball either.
Yeah, it's you kind of hate saying it, it's like, obviously she was being offered a salary of, close to $1 million a year. You can probably get away, if we're being honest. I know Yusuf's going to be joining the Big 12 and everything's got to, maybe, go up a little bit if you're going to be making, having more TV money come in and whatnot. But, you could probably pay, a coach like Coach Abe, I think was making when they hired her. She was making in the $400,000 range. She maybe got a raise, I believe, to 500 something this past season. But yeah, I mean, deep down, UCF's trying to figure out budget issues. They're going to have huge travel expenses before too long, and have to charter pretty much every flight, for a lot of these sports if you're going to some of these Big 12 cities. So I don't know, with where budget is now. I mean, maybe you hate to lose Coach A, but then again, that's, whoever this next coach is, they're not going to make $1 million a year, which would have been what you would have had to pay her if she would have said yes.
Yeah, and that's a really hard thing to do. All right, we have to take another break here. We'll be right back on Knightline at Night. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
And now, back to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Call now at 844-580-9326.
All right, back on Knightline at Night with you. I'm Andrew Phegley of talking UCF Sports. We're live from the Dever Team Studios, brought to you by Chad Bar Law, assisting injured veterans get the help they deserve. Give Chad a call, 407-599-9036, or visit protectingvets.com. You can also call Travis Dever for all your new Smyrna Beach real estate needs, 386-690-1636. And if you need a new or used car, truck, or Jeep, you can call me, Andrew Phegley, 386-736-3000. Or visit me at DeLand Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. We're taking your calls, 844-850-9326, 844-580-9326 on this show, or you can use the open mic feature in the WDBO app. Once again, I'm Andrew Phegley, AP_Knightline on Twitter. Got Big Ben Stout with me here at Big Social 32 on Twitter. And Roger Phipps at Night Bengal. You can find all the rest of our content on NightlineSports.com. Also got our good friend Brandon Helwig on the phone. You can find him at UCFSports.com, and he is the man with his finger on the pulse of Night Nation. Absolutely 100%. So we were talking about Coach Abe, the women's basketball coach, going to the University of Georgia. We're going into our longer segment here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about spring football, because that's really, I think, what really people want to hear about. We don't have a new coach this year as far as a head coach. I had that last year. And it went really well, to be honest with you, in my opinion. I feel like Coach Malzahn, Gus Malzahn, is the guy, and I'm so happy to have him here. Some quarterback issues last year, a quarterback leaving, a new quarterback transferring in as well. But Brandon, what have you heard? What's going on? They've been doing spring practices. I know you've been out there in the media stuff as much as anybody else, or more, like you usually are. So what's going on with spring football?
Yeah, well, they've been going at it. This will be, I believe, their third week coming up. We were all kind of anticipating, although practice is closed, we really can't see what's happening. We were all kind of anticipating the first full scrimmage, which was slated to be this past Saturday, but unfortunately, Gus Malzahn, his father-in-law, passed away late this past week. So Gus and Christy obviously went out of state, to be there with the family, had a funeral this weekend. So, the scrimmage on Saturday, the guys did not practice on Saturday. I think they just had some meetings, while Gus was away. But this scrimmage will be this upcoming Tuesday. So, we'll see what kind of stuff kind of gets out from there, what coaches say afterward. But everything's kind of building towards that. Obviously, the quarterback competition is probably the number one storyline. Mikey Keene started last season, obviously, led UCF to a win, against Florida in the bowl game. But, can he kind of take that next step? It kind of, is he going to be able to be, the kind of QB that Gus wants? Because, bringing John Rice Plumlee, who was at Ole Miss, if you kind of look back, he had been playing wide receiver for the Rebels the last couple of years, but he began his career as a quarterback, started a bunch of games as a freshman in 2019, ran all over the place and ran for like 300 yards in a game one time against LSU, something like that. So he's kind of quarterback in the mold, but how good is he passing the ball? That was kind of the biggest knock on him. So it'll be curious to see, who wins that battle. The early buzz is that Mikey Keene has grasp of it, but we're really barely into spring we haven't even had one full scrimmage yet.
So Brandon, speaking of holes to fill, one of the things that we did is we were very active in the transfer portal last season. So, I'm going to throw some names out here and let me know if you've heard anything about these folks and how they're doing, because, the initial list for the first few practices, obviously, didn't contain any of these names, but there were some big names that were added. So Keymore Gamble, former 3/4 star, tight end, Lee Hunter from Auburn, Kobe Hudson, very talented wide receiver, highly rated wide receiver as well. So I'm interested in hearing how you think those folks are doing, and on Terence Lewis as well from Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys were, you pretty much brought in to, be impact guys from day one. I think the first one you mentioned was Keymore Gamble. The tight end position was something, generally speaking, the last few years has not been great, at least since Michael Kalubiale graduated. I know Alec Holler emerged this past year, former walk-on, did a lot of good things. He emerged a little bit, and I've heard he's had a good spring. But with Keymore, you get a guy who, played 4 years in the SEC, obviously was a starter at Florida, just really adds a lot of talent to that position, which they had been lacking. You mentioned, I believe, Kobe Hudson, who was the Auburn's number one wide receiver. He was the leading receiver for an SEC school this past season. And there's a lot of issues that people have been following with the coach that replaced Gus at Auburn. And so he left and hit the portal, and obviously was familiar with Gus because he recruited him to Auburn. So he's here, and that's a really good addition to have because he's a younger guy. That's what I like when you get transfers. It's great if you get talent anywhere, but sometimes these guys only have 1 year left. Like we're talking about the tight end, he's got 1 year left. But a guy like Kobe Hudson should have 3 years left. And that's huge, for you look at, Ryan O'Keefe might move on after this season, you try to sort of, replenish that talent. So it's huge getting Kobe Hudson in there. I think you mentioned Lee Hunter. Another guy who was at Auburn, this is kind of a broken record here. Guys leave Auburn upset with the situation, recruited by Gus, and they come down and join him at UCF. It happened last year too. So Lee Hunter came in, redshirted. He was one of the top-rated defensive tackles in last year's class. He actually redshirted, didn't play this past year at Auburn, but obviously a lot of potential. People really high on him. He'll come in, and I think he's second team right now. I mean, he's going to play a lot, I'm sure, this upcoming season. Not sure. Terence Lewis, linebacker. He was a 5-star. He's actually the second 5-star to join UCF in as many years. One of the wide receivers, Jordan Johnson, was a 5-star from Notre Dame who was a transfer last summer. But yeah, Terence Lewis, former 5-star, is coming off some injury issues, went to Maryland, originally out of Miami. Didn't play this past year. He's not really a full-going spring because he's still got some injury issues he's working out, but obviously they're excited about his potential. And he's got another 4 years as well. So, it's good when you get those guys that have multiple years left.
Yeah, Brandon, you mentioned Kobe Hudson there, and obviously he's a great addition to the wide receiver room to join Ryan O'Keefe, who just came on so strong last year, especially in the bowl game and the games late in the season. So he certainly seems like he's solidified himself, and Kobe Hudson's coming in as an impact player. We know a year ago, prior to last season, Jalen Robinson obviously, came onto the scene. So we got 3 good wide receivers there. Hopefully Jalen Robinson comes back strong. But a name that we're hearing a lot in these press conferences, these media availabilities, is Jalen Griffin, the wide receiver. He's a young guy. He seems to be a name that we kind of hear a little more often than just not at all. So is that somebody that to keep an eye on as as spring practice progresses and see if that's a name that could emerge in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys have mentioned him. He was a guy who, came to UCF out of junior college. It was kind of a weird situation because, you go through that COVID year and you're not really recruiting on the road, and they had a limited schedule, junior colleges. And then I think when he played the year before, there was a lot of wide receivers in front of him, so he didn't really play a lot of JUCO as a freshman. So kind of when he was offered and UCF got a commitment from him, it was kind of based on his potential and some practice film and stuff like that. But they really felt good about him, the previous staff, and didn't really make an impact. I think he might have had a couple of catches. I don't have the stats in front of him, but it didn't really make a major impact. He dressed, but didn't make an impact this past year. But he's going to be that guy because you lose Brandon Johnson, who was sure-handed guy, had a lot of touchdown catches this past year. You kind of need a solid kind of fourth option. And is it going to be him? Is it going to be Amar Johnson, who's been here? But yeah, that's a guy that you're right that all the guys seem to mention doing well. So I'll be kind of curious to see once we get to the spring game in a few weeks to see if he shows us anything.
Yeah, so I've had plenty of chance to talk about this with the other guys, but I want to ask your opinion. What is the biggest glaring need and position group that needs to really step up or that you're worried about this season?
I mean, you don't even have to think twice. It's a linebacker, okay? Tatum Bethune, he's just top player, maybe one of the top players on defense last year, left, to the transfer portal and is now at Florida State, kind of rejoining the coach who recruited him to UCF, Randy Shannon. And so you're pretty much left with, you have one player, that being Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, that has actually played in games in a significant role. That's it. You have no other linebacker that has played any significant rep in a game. You got Quaden Moser played in a handful of reps, maybe, when it's been a blowout, but not in a crunch time situation. So that's a major need. And that's why UCF is hitting the transfer portal. They got a commitment just a few days ago from a player at Eastern Illinois, Jason Johnson. He was an All-American at the FCS level. It's not too different from a year ago. Bryson Armstrong came from Kennesaw State. He was an All-American at FCS as well and had a good year. He was UCF's leading tackler, I believe, before he got a season-ending ACL injury towards the end of the season in that SMU game in middle of November. But kind of the same situation, was a standout player at that level. I talked to him last week. He's just looking for an opportunity now. A lot of guys are it's kind of how it is now with the transfer portal. Now you're immediately eligible. It's kind of like a farm league, so to speak. You get FCS guys who did really well there. They want to see if they can have that translated to the top level. And he's excited about that. So, a player is a player. I think he'll be a great addition. Will definitely help with the depth issues there. And so that's a really big get for UCF.
So another transfer that is due to help with the linebacker situation is Katie McDaniel from Kentucky. He was a 3-star. I believe we were in the mix for him early on, but he ended up going to Kentucky. Do you feel like he can make an impact for that group?
Yeah, well, actually, he was a linebacker predominantly, I guess listed as a linebacker at Kentucky, but he's actually going to play what UCF calls the buck position, which is would be grouped with the defensive ends, the same position that Big Cat Bryant played last year. So he's actually, he could play linebacker, but right now he's more of a defensive end. It's kind of a hybrid linebacker / Russian kind of thing, but he's technically more with the D-line this spring than he is with the linebackers, but he's a guy that will make an impact there. UCF does lose a couple guys from that defensive line unit. Obviously, Big Cat Bryant is a big one, and he's maybe might help fill his shoes a little bit.
Yeah.
Any of the young guys, we're talking a lot about transfers, and that's understandable. Any of the freshmen coming in early, like Nakai Martinez, or I'm not sure if Jordan Mcdonald, the running back, came in early or not, but any of those freshmen that you're hearing any buzz about?
And Jordan Mcdonald, who you mentioned, he is here. We've had a few practice viewings in terms of you can see the first 15 or 20 minutes when they're doing the individual drills. He is a massive human being, Jordan Mcdonald. It's not hard to see that he was a superstar in high school. Once he gets it together in college, and with the depth they have at running back, they won't necessarily need to utilize him this year. We'll see if he earns it. But it's going to be scary to see what he can become. But yeah, he's here. Nakai Martinez, if you guys have mentioned him earlier, is doing well. He's here. I think there's about 6 guys or so that are early enrollees. And we'll see. Once we get to the scrimmages and get to see a spring game, who has a chance to contribute this year. Who has the best chance? I'm not sure right now. Maybe once maybe that guys who aren't elevated, maybe a wide receiver like a Quan Lee.
All right, got to go to a break real quick here. We'll be right back on Knightline at Night.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Knightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this.
We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys?
My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong. Spoiler alert, until Piggy dies.
Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Knightline Sports Network.
And now, back to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Call now at 844-580-9326.
All right, back on Knightline at Night with you, and it is time for the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. All right, the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week, one of my favorite segments in this whole thing. I love Tijuana Flats. You guys hear about it all the time. Went there this past week, and it was awesome. As always, they have new shrimp tacos, by the way, which are really cool, and they have a bowl as well. I'm going to start with you, Ben. Ben, what is your Tijuana Flats hot take of the week?
All right, this is a bit of a long-term take. Of the true freshmen that are on this UCF football roster, I think Nakai Martinez out of Apopka High School is going to make the biggest impact on the UCF football team this year. I think he's going to be a guy that during next football season we're going to talk about a lot.
All right, and we're going to have Brandon Helwig, our guest, as well in this thing. Brandon, do you have a hot take for us?
I don't know if this is a hot take other than it is a shot in the dark, but my hot take is that Mikey Keene is going to run away with the starting quarterback position. I know that probably won't be determined this spring, but rather this upcoming August. But, he looks a lot different. He feels confident. He's worked on it this offseason on improving his body. He's put on 10 pounds of muscle. He certainly acts and feels like quarterback one, and I believe he's going to retain that position going into 2022.
Awesome. That was a great one. I agree 100%. Thank you so much, Brandon, by the way, for being on today. Roger, what's yours?
For my Tijuana Flats hot take of the week, I'm going to say UCF track phenom Renaya Jones will compete and win the 100-meter indoor hurdles at the NCAA championships this year.
All right, good. All right, those were good ones. I'm gonna forego my hot take of the week this week to thank Brandon some more. Brandon, really quickly, tell us where people can find you and about your service that you have on UCFsports.com and how much it costs.
Yeah, well, I've been covering the team for, going on 20 years now, probably a little bit more than that. I'm at UCFsports.com, UCF Sports on Twitter. We have the, biggest message board community, a lot of fun fan interaction on the site. So if you're a UCF fan, come over to UCFsports.com and check us out.
Alrighty, absolutely. The best coverage anywhere that you can get. And sometimes you do a little bit of a video chat or something on there too recently, which is very cool. I haven't had a chance to make one of them yet, but one of these days I will for sure. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. Any last thoughts very quickly for either one of you?
I was just going to say it was great to hear Brandon's hot take, because that has been yours and my hot take over I think all three of us actually over the last couple of months. So we really believe in Michael Keene.
For Mikey Keene, big time. And I just feel like the way that quarterbacks mature between that freshman and sophomore year is huge. We've seen it with McKenzie. We saw it with Dylan. I just feel like this is his year, and it should be. And I'm rooting for him probably harder than I'm rooting for anybody else out there.
Yeah, for me, I'm glad we talked about the linebacker spot. We've been talking about that for a little while, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
All right, we'll be back next week, same time, same station. Go Knights.
Charge on.